watchers, welcome to Perth Watch, your horology channel broadcasting from right here in Perth, Western Australia. Today I have another piece from local supporter and friend Jeremy. This one is from a company that's a little bit mysterious. As far as I know, Time Arrow only sells on eBay. They don't really list anywhere else. Very little information I can find about the company itself, and it kind of is reflected in the packaging that it comes in. It's kind of like a bit of a sterile presentation, and even the packaging itself has absolutely nothing on it. So, you know, there is a bit of an aura of mystery about this particular brand and watch. But anyway, let's flip the camera around now and take a closer look at this guy. Alright guys, so here we have the case on the table. Spinability is excellent, right? That's a 5 out of 5. This is very much a sterile case here, right? Completely black without any branding. So let's just get it open. So similarly on the inside, absolutely no branding. And this is kind of what this company is slightly famous for. So let's just undo the clasps here and show you this watch closer. So guys, this here is the Time Arrow Submariner. Okay, that's just all I'm going to call it, and they don't really name it anything more than that. So circle around a T at the bottom and then an arrow up the top, kind of alluding to the brand name. No other writing whatsoever on the dial, which is really kind of cool. I think that they're really quite daring that they've gone and done this type of approach to the watch. Now this model, I'm not sure whether it's really available anymore. I used to only sell on eBay, and right now I can't find any on eBay. I believe originally when it was being sold, it was available for around 60 USD, but let me know if you know more detail about that. Okay, so let's just quickly detail the movement here, because as you see, it is a quartz movement, and it is none other than the Swiss Ronda 715 lithium, or Li. So this is a 10-year battery movement. It is a jeweled Swiss quartz, so 5 jewels. And in this case, it does have a ghost date position. It normally is a date movement, but obviously you can see on the dial here, there is no date that has been implemented on this particular watch. Okay, so that's the movement. Now the case itself, 40mm classical Submariner in 316L steel. Thickness is, again classical at 13mm with 20mm lug width and a lug-to-lug distance. You won't be surprised to hear it is 48mm. Absolutely, classical oyster case proportions here. Overall weight is slightly light, so this bracelet has some pressed metal components, so it is only 127 grams despite being on a metal bracelet. Okay, let's talk about finishing. So the bezel, as you might expect, is actually a polished coin edge. You can see there on the top of the lugs is circular brushing, and that transitions as you would see polished sides there, and the bottom of the lug surfaces are circular brushing. You can see that solid screw down case back has a unidirectional or monodirectional brushing in the middle there with slightly polish on the perimeter, a la Rolex might do. So that's completely an homage there. It does have a screw down crown, but not surprisingly, in this particular brand, it is a plain polish on the top there. Now, you'll note that there is no water resistant rating on the dial or on the back, but spec-wise on the webs and on listings previously, I believe it was described as 100-meter water resistant with those kind of features. Okay, let's talk about the dial now that we're finished with the case. So here is a flat black dial with wholly printed details, right? There's not a single applied indice here. Printed chapter ring around the periphery, and the indices are also printed and of course painted with lume. The hands are polished Mercedes, classic Mercedes hands with the lollipop seconds. The lume is not stated exactly what it is. It glows green, and it is all the usual spots, including the bezel pip. Not fantastic, doesn't really glow through the night, but a lume shot right here for you guys to see how it glows in the dark. Okay, so that's the description of the dial. Around the dial is a dive style bezel, of course. In this case, it is an aluminium insert, as you can see there. 120 click unidirectional, and let's hear it now. Very soft, actually. That's 5 clicks. Right, 5 clicks. 120 clicks, soft. Not too much backplay, for a $60 watch. You're not going to be surprised to find some degree of backplay. This is actually fairly stiff in some positions to turn. In fact, I'm kind of struggling with it at the moment. Let's just get it back to the 12 o'clock position. So it's a little bit uneven. Certain parts of the rotation are easier to turn than other positions, and that's probably a QC tolerance thing. Okay, so that's just 120 clicks on there. On top of the dial is, a very lightly domed single dome, I believe, sapphire crystal, and you can see it's single dome because, even without too much extremity in the angle here, you're getting distortion in the dial. So, that's what you get with a single dome, and I don't mind that actually. That's pretty cool that you're going to get some of that distortion in this otherwise fairly sterile dial. Okay, so that's the case. Let's move on to the bracelet. So the bracelet is none other than an oyster style bracelet. Of course, it's brushed, completely brushed on the 3-piece per link there. It does have polished sides. It does have a push pin adjustment. And in this case, it actually has solid end links, not hollow end links like you might expect on many watches around this price range. Tapers nicely from 20 to 16 millimeters, which is fairly classical and nice. The class is none other than pressed metal with pressed metal arms there. And there you go. You can see the only place where they've written anything here, Time Arrow Watch Company, just hidden inside there. All right, pressed metal all the way, including that keeper. But it does have a nice 7-point micro adjustment. So you can actually adjust this very nicely to fit a wide variety of wrist sizes. Okay, that's the entire description, guys. Let's fit it on the wrist now for the wrist shot. And there you go, guys. The Time Arrow Submariner on my 17cm wrist. Of course, these watches fit me absolutely fine. Probably fit most guys fine. I think, my wrist isn't huge, but, I think this carries perfectly well. Remember, it's 48mm lug-to-lug distance with 13mm thickness there on a classic 40mm diameter. And there we go. That's that oyster bracelet on the wrist there. Okay, so that's the entire watch, guys. So what have I, enjoyed about this particular piece? Look, I think for $60, solidly done Submariner Homage, at this price range, right? Good case, right? The case is actually quite possibly the best bit, really. The sterility of it, lack of branding anywhere. I don't mind that at all. Fairly nicely done. The bezel fit is very tight. In fact, perhaps a bit too tight on some positions. Hand finishing, right? You saw it in macros earlier. Pretty well done, those polished hands. I like the sapphire crystal, the fact that they've gone for this double dome, and the fact that they've gone for, I like the sapphire crystal, the fact that they've gone for the distortion on the single dome, and they've given a sapphire, not just mineral crystal. It's got a 10-year movement, 10-year battery Swiss Quartz, which is pretty darn good, reliable movement. And it's, I think, the bracelet, better than, say, Invicta, which is kind of slightly more expensive usually. Invicta Automatic Pro Diver, and it doesn't have the the loud branding that Invicta has on the case side. So that's, I think, a plus, even though that it's actually a something they haven't done. Refreshingly, this sterile dial design is pretty good. Nearly sterile, completely, without the crown, without the side, without anything. On the bracelet clasp here, the only place, as I've shown you, is really there. Nothing on the back as well. It's actually kind of cool. I don't mind, having this, and people have to ask you what this watch is, and it kind of starts a bit of conversation. What are the weaknesses? What can you really complain about for $60, right? No applied indices. Well, okay, yeah, fair enough. Some watches at this price will have it. The bracelet finishing, I want to say it's probably pretty much on par with a $60 watch. It's fairly poor, right? Definitely quite imperfect. You can see the waviness in the finishing there. So, that's something to note. The lume is poor. It's probably on par with Invicta, so nothing to shout about. No ceramic, so I only mention that because there's some watches not much more expensive these days that are starting to put ceramic, but you know, that's probably, for $60, I'm not surprised that you're not getting ceramic, so I don't mind that. All right, so guys, that's my thoughts on the Time Arrow Submariner. Let's flip the camera around now for the wrap up. So there you go, guys, my review of this Time Arrow piece. Pretty much a straight up and down sterile Submariner homage. I don't review a lot of Quartz three-hander watches, but this is one of the few pieces I have done. Let me know your thoughts. I think at the price point, it represents a reasonable value, but of course there's a lot of other alternatives out there, particularly automatic, which I think most of us will rather prefer and be interested in. But let me know your thoughts if you have any experience with Time Arrow Watch Company. Guys, if you enjoy my videos, do consider subscribing. New content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. Thank you again for sticking with me, and as always, I'll catch you guys again next time.